Okay, folks, welcome to this edition of Sandy Hook Hoaxers Debunked, brought to you by NewtownPostExaminer.com and SandyHookStalkers.wordpress.com. I'm your host, Keith Johnson. Today we visit the YouTube channel of KateSlate11 and review one of her videos entitled Sandy Hook Elderly Parents, which was published last year, and says, pointing out the obvious, with the combined average age of these mothers to be 42.2 years old, parents of first graders. While it is true women are waiting longer to have children, the odds of these moms being so much older is pretty uncommon. Okay, well, we will check into that claim shortly, but first off, while it certainly is true that Kate has some far more recent videos uploaded on her channel, I personally have found them, by and large, to be nothing more than one opinionated woman's commentary on current events that have transpired since the Shees tragedy. In other words, they're light on theory and heavy on gossip. You see, Kate likes to gossip, and while others may direct their vitriol against their friends, relatives, neighbors, or even celebrities, Kate directs her bitter criticism at high-profile victims of violent crime. And make no mistake, whether we're talking about a family member, a teacher, or even a first responder who lived through this tragedy, they are victims first and survivors a distant second. Now, as for these parents, they've sustained an incalculable loss that few on this planet can even imagine. And these others who witnessed this unspeakable horror, they've been left traumatized, and their lives will simply never be the same. As far as Kate's concerned, well, you can learn a lot about her by the company she keeps. One of her colleagues is an individual who goes by the name Stackpot. And on his YouTube channel, you'll find content like this. Lady Bumped, the prostitutes of Sandy Hook. And I'll just read this first line here. It couldn't be a hoax without the whores of Newtown showing up with their crocodile tears and lame-ass stories. And he goes on to disparage women and even describes one of the teachers as a USDA choice piece of meat. Yeah. Anyway, you'll find KateSlate11 in the comments section, giving her fellow hoaxer a big thumbs up for that one. And like Stackpot, Kate has a particular obsession with the women of Newtown. In one of her more recent videos, she pokes fun at Francine Wheeler, whose son was among those brutally murdered at Shees. She posts a 30-second news clip about the Wheelers welcoming a new child and then carries on a discussion in the comment section about how the whole pregnancy looks fake. And the reason I bring all this up, folks, is because this is the caliber of quote-unquote researcher that the hoaxer community holds in high esteem. In fact, Kate's a frequent guest on Professor Jim Fetzer's radio program, which only fuels my suspicion about Fetzer being a paid disinformation agent. I mean, what better way to sabotage the alternative press than to promote rock-bottom garbage like this? But that's the subject of a future show. Meanwhile, back to Kate. Before we get into this rather quick debunking, I thought I'd share a few clips from a variety of her recent videos to demonstrate just what I mean when I say that her content is light on theory and heavy on gossip, and pay particular attention to the contempt in her voice and this obsession with the families and the notion that they've all got their hands out seeking to profit off the slaughter of their children.
Pick a little, talk a lot, cheep, cheep, cheep. Pick a little, talk a little, cheep, cheep, cheep. Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little.
Out of those 20 kids, who had disabilities and who didn't? Because according to the parents, all of them were prodigies. I've heard neither parent make one remark about their little girl having a heart disease. And when they established their foundation, it had nothing to do with heart disease. The foundation in their daughter's name, another money grabber. For the second anniversary of Sandy Hook, the parents, the families just want to quietly reflect. And I really don't believe this whole, BS about it being so they can quietly reflect and leave them alone, because they are in the public's face every single day otherwise. Who wants their kids being taught by these teachers who are full of post-stress trauma disorder? Of course, no story would be complete without Pat Loja, who, incidentally, I cannot believe has not signed a contract for women hair regrowth by now. And why would you incinerate all that stuff? You could resell it. And since they're begging for so much money, then they could, line their wallets. It's Newtown. It's the land of beggars. One resident said putting the house on the market might have drawn the merely curious and even conspiracy theorists. Dare say, not the big old bad conspiracy theorists. Oh my.
Just melt her down and you'll reveal a lump of lead as cold as steel here, where a woman's heart should be.
Okay, just a quick note here on the morbidly curious being attracted to the scene of the crime. That's already happened time and time again. Here we have prominent hoaxer Sophia Smallsturm, who actually did a whole photo essay on her visit to Newtown and then shared it with, 10,000 hoaxers. Here's a picture she shared of school buses along with some commentary on how many children she counted and the odd way that they waved at passerbys. Then we have this picture taken with her male companion outside of Jockey Hollow School. Remember, these photos are being shared with her internet audience. So as a parent, I ask you, does this not creep you out? And if that doesn't, maybe this will. This coming from hoaxer Kelly Watt, who wants to fly a helicopter over Chalk Hill School and then count the kids coming off of the school buses and see what, quote-unquote, is really going on at the school. I mean, really, folks. This isn't your ordinary high-profile murder scene like, let's say, the O.J. Simpson house, which, I'm sure got its share of visitors in its day, but that murder didn't attract a gaggle of conspiracy theorists who believe that the house contains evidence that holds the key to unlocking a vast government conspiracy. Yeah, there are no other crimes to my knowledge that have a Facebook page and online chat sessions where you've got thousands of members gathering on a daily basis to plot and scheme against the people who are connected to this tragedy. To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, get rid of the school and the house on Yogananda, and you eliminate two potential tourist attractions that will generate no revenue for the town, but will generate a lot of calls from neighbors to the police about suspicious characters parked outside their property. I mean, come on. The moment news of the raising of the Yogananda house broke, you get comments like these on the Sandy Hook Hoax page. Somebody just has to get into that house, get some DNA samples, pictures, bring a guy with a crime kit, pictures. Now, I am of the opinion that if that house were to remain standing, the new owners would come home one day and find a hoaxer fleeing out the back door with part of their carpet clutched under his arm. And please don't tell me, ladies and gentlemen, that the raising of the home would send up red flags that it's being done to destroy evidence. That's just your conspiratorial mindset in overdrive, okay? The truth is, doing away with places that evoke painful memories is common. Just recently, this home in Cleveland was torn down where this monster, Ariel Castro, kept 3 girls in his basement for several years. Now, was that a government plot? Or how about the Amish? Were they trying to destroy evidence back in 2006 when they... Well, let me read this paragraph from an article in the New Yorker. In October of 2006, an Amish community in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, hired a contractor to demolish their schoolhouse with a backhoe and remove the debris to an undisclosed location. The demolition took only 15 minutes at dawn, and by noon on the same day, the building's former site had been planted with clover and grass. 6 months later, and a few hundred yards away, the community opened a new one-room schoolhouse, superficially identical, but within closely held design traditions, as architecturally different as possible from its predecessor. What we're talking about is the scene of the Amish school murders, where a gunman shot 10 girls, killed 5 before committing suicide. Now, if that happened today, the hoaxers would be screaming false flag. I mean, no doubt about it, folks. No doubt at all. I mean, I could hear it now. That guy never existed. He was a patsy. You know, I'm right. Look at the smirks on those boys' faces. And you call that a so-called funeral? I don't think so. Look at these women. They don't seem to be too broken up about this thing, and they're wearing military-issue tactical boots. Yeah, it'd be just like that. Okay, and just briefly touching on the destruction of personal effects, I mean, there's nothing suspect about the disposal of non-evidentiary property from a crime scene, especially in a high-profile crime like this, where the property could be sold as memorabilia for a profit. And the same thing over at Sandy Hook, over there at the school, there was an effort to prevent exploitation of the remains and ensure that none of these items ended up on eBay. I mean, none of this needs to be explained to rational people, but to hoaxers, no explanation is acceptable unless it supports the hoax mythos. All right, so the time has come to quickly address this ridiculous notion of Kate's that I bring up only because I've heard it repeated at least 3 times this year. That the mothers of these slain children are too old for elementary school kids. In other words, this is just one more anomaly and inconsistency in the story that come to be known as Sandy Hook. Okay, so she starts out by saying maybe the big book of Granny was a subliminal message, and she's referring, of course, to that book, this violent comic book that Lanza put together. And, what are the odds that there are relatively no young parents in Sandy Hook? The average age of these mothers is 42.2 years old. Now, that's the age that they are at the time of this video. You have to deduct about 6 or 7 years to determine how old they were when they gave birth, which I found ranges from about 26 to 43 years old. Okay, so Kate starts her video. She plays this haunting music as she fades in and out of the mother's images and displays how old they are, which I'm not going to do here. And after that, she tops it off saying it's a fact that women are waiting longer and longer to have kids, but to have an age range so tightly packed like this, pretty uncommon. As the mother of all hoaxers, Kate Slate. Obviously, there was an agenda here, along with all the other inconsistencies within Sandy Hook. Okay, what that agenda was, Kate doesn't state, but I assume what she's suggesting is that they needed older, seasoned operatives, veteran secret agents for this operation, since they will be in the public eye for some time, and of course couldn't entrust this mission on some young rookie who is likely to flub her lines and break character. I don't know. Is that the agenda you're talking about, Kate? So anyway, is it true? Is there something unusual about a bunch of women in their 40s being mothers to first and second graders? Well, what I found is perhaps it is in other parts of the country, but in this part of Connecticut, it's not the exception, it's the rule. Now, check out this article from May 2013 from ConnecticutPost.com, and it says right here, here in Southwest Connecticut, women have children later in their lives than in most other parts of the country. The Bridgeport-Stamford Metropolitan Statistical Area, which covers the same ground as the footprint of Fairfield County being where Newtown is in, has the second highest percentage of 35 to 50-year-old mothers in the nation. Nationally, the figure is much lower, at about 20% according to the data from the U.S. Census Bureau. There you go, another stupid hoax or myth laid to rest. So ironically, what Kate has inadvertently done here is help us prove once again that there's nothing out of the ordinary going on there in Newtown. Not today, not then. And what we learned from this is two things. One, if you're a Newtown woman brought before Judge Slate, don't expect to present evidence in your defense. You've already been found guilty as charged. And secondly, what we've learned is this goddamn thing called the internet has proved to be more curse than blessing, at least where the hoaxers are concerned. I mean, although it would take about a minute to fact-check Kate's claim, it appears that few have gone to the effort. I mean, look at that. Over 7,000 views, more than 300 thumbs up, which goes to show you why I don't respect the thumbs feature, and not one rebuttal that I can find in the comments section. Yeah, gotta love that YouTube generation. Anyway, grading Kate on a scale of A+ to F, she gets a D+, and that's only because it was a short video and there was no vocal track. Okay, so that's it for this silly edition of this show. Don't forget to check out these websites and subscribe to this channel, and I'm hoping that some of you who might be Kate's fans, you might chime in and tell me if she has anything out there worthy of debunking. I'd rather hear it from you than having to force myself to listen to hours of podcasts and chat sessions. I just don't think I can take that. So if there's any theory she's known for it hasn't been debunked, please pass it along and I'll see if it's worth my time. Thanks.